Chapter 1. The Crime and the Sketchbook. The party at Blackwood Manor had been exactly what you'd expect from rich people who thought too highly of themselves. Loud, flashy, and full of guests pretending they liked each other. By midnight, most of the guests were too drunk to notice anything strange. Except Anna Fletcher. Anna didn't drink, dance, or gossip. She couldn't, really. Being deaf and mute had a way of making parties more of a spectator sport. So she spent the evening quietly clearing plates and dodging Lord Blackwood's terrible attempts at jokes. But the next morning, things got weird. It started with the screaming. Anna had just finished scrubbing out wine stains from the carpet, because apparently rich people can't hold their drinks, or aim for a table, when Lady Blackwood's shriek echoed down the hall. Anna froze, holding a teacup that was already chipped. She blinked. Maybe Lady Blackwood had seen another spider. Last time it happened, the butler practically had to perform an exorcism on a poor, confused arachnid, but then the screaming didn't stop. That's when Anna realized this wasn't Spider. She set the teacup down, very gently, because she didn't feel like explaining to Mrs. Banks why yet another dish had mysteriously exploded. Curiosity got the best of her. Anna walked down the hall, poking her head around the corner of Lord Blackwood's study. Well, that explained the screaming. Lord Blackwood was slumped over his desk, very much not alive. Anna wasn't a detective, but the dagger sticking out of his chest seemed like a clue. Lady Blackwood stood in the doorway, sobbing dramatically into a lace handkerchief, like she was auditioning for Tragedy the Musical. Meanwhile, the butler looked suspiciously pale, probably wondering if this meant he could take an early retirement. Anna took one step backward. Too late. Lady Blackwood spotted her immediately, her eyes widening like Anna had grown a second head. She waved frantically at the inspector who had just arrived. "She was standing right outside," Lady Blackwood wailed. Anna blinked. She must have seen something. Anna glanced at the body, then at Lady Blackwood, then back at the body. She lifted her hands in a quick sign of admonishment. The room stared at her like she'd just confessed to burning down half of London. Enter Inspector Thomas Greaves. Greaves was tall, broad-shouldered, and looked like he hadn't slept since 1910. He strolled in like he'd solved 50 murders that morning, and was hoping for an easy one to wrap up his day. His eyes swept the room, landing on Anna. "Lady Blackwood," he said, tipping his hat. "Let's not assume the servant girl murdered your husband." He paused. "I assume she didn't." Anna raised her hands. "No, obviously." Lady Blackwood sniffled dramatically but didn't answer. Greaves crouched by the body, glancing at the dagger. "Locked from the inside," he muttered. "No sign of forced entry." He glanced at Anna. "She was outside the door?" Lady Blackwood nodded. "She doesn't speak, Inspector, but she must have seen someone." Greaves looked at Anna again. "Miss Fletcher, you saw someone, didn't you?" Anna gave him a look that clearly said, "If I could scream yes, I would have done that already." She sighed and pulled the sketchbook from her apron pocket. Greaves raised an eyebrow as Anna flipped it open. "What's this?" he asked. Anna tapped the page, picked up a pencil, and began drawing. 5 minutes later, Greaves stared at the paper in silence. Anna had drawn the study with surprising accuracy. There was the desk, the bookshelves, even the crumpled rug near the fireplace. And there, standing in the shadows by the door, was a figure. Greaves narrowed his eyes. "Who's this?" Anna shrugged. That's what I'd like to know." Greaves scratched his chin, glancing at the sketch again. "Well, Miss Fletcher, he said, standing up. "It looks like we'll need a few more of these." Anna raised an eyebrow. She was supposed to polish silver, not solve murders, but sure, why not? At least drawing didn't involve scrubbing carpets. Chapter 2. Suspects, Sketches, and Suspicious Rugs. The thing about rich people is, they always have secrets, and they're terrible at hiding them. Inspector Greaves must have known that too, because by the time breakfast rolled around, he had the entire Blackwood family seated awkwardly in the drawing-room. They looked like students waiting for detention, avoiding eye contact, whispering and occasionally glaring at each other like they'd rather be anywhere else. Anna stood quietly in the corner, sketchbook in hand. Not because she was officially part of the investigation, but because she was supposed to dust the curtains. She figured sketching was a better use of her time. Greaves, holding a cup of tea like it was more for moral support than caffeine. "Well," he said, breaking the silence, "let's begin. Which one of you wanted Lord Blackwood dead?" There was a collective gasp. Lady Blackwood nearly fainted into the nearest armchair. "Excuse me," she huffed, pressing a hand to her chest like she'd been personally attacked by Greaves' question. "You can't just accuse us like that." Greaves sipped his tea calmly. "I didn't. I asked which of you wanted him dead. Different question entirely." No one answered. Which, as far as Anna was concerned, was a little suspicious. Suspect number 1, Lady Blackwood. Greaves sat across from her, notebook open. "Let's start with you, Lady Blackwood. Where were you when your husband was stabbed?" "Suspect number 1? Lady Blackwood?" "Upstairs. I'd retired early." Greaves raised an eyebrow. "And you didn't hear anything?" Lady Blackwood scoffed. "My husband snored like a freight train. I wouldn't have heard a brass band if they marched through the house." Anna, in the corner, sketched a tiny train steaming out of Lord Blackwood's study. Greaves leaned back, tapping his pen. "And your relationship with the late Lord Blackwood? Happy?" Lady Blackwood blinked. "Is anyone happy in marriage, Inspector?" Anna nearly choked on air. "Suspect number 2, the butler, who's definitely hiding something." The butler stood stiffly by the fireplace, looking like he'd swallowed a coat hanger. His hands were neatly folded, but Anna noticed the way he kept glancing toward the door. Greaves gave him a long, hard stare. "Mr. Dalton, you've been with the family for how long?" 17 years, sir." "And how did you feel about Lord Blackwood?" Dalton didn't hesitate. "He paid me." Greaves tilted his head. "That's not quite the glowing review I expected." The butler adjusted his collar. "I prefer honesty, Inspector." Anna, sketching furiously, drew tiny flames under the butler's feet, because someone was feeling the heat. After an hour of polite interrogation and impolite side-eyeing, Greaves leaned against the mantelpiece with a sigh. "So far, all I've gathered is that no one really liked Lord Blackwood, but no one will admit to killing him." Anna thought this sounded about right. She tapped Greaves' arm and held up her sketchbook. The latest drawing showed the study, neat, with Lord Blackwood slumped at his desk. "Where you do it?" But in the corner of the sketch was something new. A shattered glass. Greaves squinted. "Was that there yesterday?" Anna shook her head. She'd only noticed it when she peeked under the rug during the interrogation. And that was the real mystery. Who shoves a broken glass under a rug? Greaves chuckled. "Well, someone's not great at covering their tracks." Anna flipped the page. The next sketch was sharper, an outline of the butler standing by the study door, but behind him, faint and barely noticeable, was the shape of someone else, a second figure. Graves froze. "Who's that?" Anna shrugged. She didn't know. But one thing was clear. Whoever it was, they were hiding in plain sight. Still he stood and tried to watch Benson's face as he read. Chapter 3. Sketches Don't Lie. Inspector Greaves was starting to trust Anna's sketches more than his own eyes. "All right, Miss Fletcher," he said, tapping his notebook. "Show me what you've got." Anna held up a sketchbook like a student presenting homework she knew was too good for the teacher to handle. Greaves leaned in, studying the newest drawing. It was Lord Blackwood's study, but this version had a few artistic upgrades, mainly the glowing outline of a mysterious keyhole behind the desk. Greaves blinked. "That keyhole wasn't there yesterday." Anna shrugged. "That's because you weren't paying attention." The investigation had turned into a full-blown art class. By noon, Greaves was hovering over Anna's shoulder as she sketched, nodding and occasionally muttering things like, "Brilliant, your..." To be fair, Anna didn't blame him. The butler spent most of his time following Greaves like a ghost, and Lady Blackwood wouldn't stop offering tea. Hard to concentrate when someone was aggressively pushing chamomile on you. As Anna's pencil danced across the page, new details emerged. A shattered glass under the rug, drawn. An unfamiliar bracelet on the study floor, sketched. A cat no one remembered owning, sitting on Lord Blackwood's chair, absolutely included. Greaves glanced at the cat drawing. "Is this necessary?" Anna shrugged. Cats could be witnesses, too. But things got interesting when Anna's next sketch revealed something Greaves hadn't noticed, a symbol. It was carved faintly into the base of the desk, twisting, looping, and far too dramatic to just be decoration. It looked like the kind of thing rich people used to curse each other during family dinners. Greaves squinted. "This looks ominous." Anna flipped the page and sketched a little stick figure next to the symbol, raising tiny hands in fear. "Greaves?" Greaves muttered. "Even your stick figures are stretched." Determined to find out if the symbol was more than just spooky decor, Greaves crouched behind the desk, running his hands along the edges. "Let me guess," he said, grunting as he shoved the desk aside. "You're going to draw me next. Stuck under this desk, aren't you?" Anna smirked and flipped to a fresh page. After much groaning, and what sounded suspiciously like swearing under his breath, Greaves paused. His fingers grazed something cold and metallic. He stopped. A compartment, hidden in the desk wall. Greaves' eyes widened. "Miss Fletcher? Remind me to never doubt your art degree." Anna gave him a thumbs up. The compartment clicked open, revealing a stack of letters, yellowed, fragile, and all marked with the same stamp, "Retruthed to sender." Greaves turned the top letter over, frowning. Why would Blackwood keep unopened letters hidden like this? Anna flipped to a new page and sketched an arrow pointing to the letters. "Am starting to believe that?" Greaves snorted. "I'm starting to believe that." As they sorted through the letters, Anna sketched a final detail of the room. The desk, now shoved aside, but with something faint beneath it, a keyhole. Small, almost invisible. Anna held up the sketch for Greaves to see. He stared at it for a long time, before glancing back at the desk. His eyes narrowed. "Miss Fletcher," he said slowly, "I think you'd have found the next..." Chapter 4. Butler down, panic up. "Did she just say the butler's dead?" he asked. Anna nodded. "Yep." Greaves sighed and set his cup down. "Well, that's inconvenient." Mr. Dalton, the The world's most suspicious butler was indeed very dead. They found him sprawled in his quarters, face down next to a pile of folded towels. Honestly, Anna thought it was a terrible way to go. Imagine being murdered next to laundry. Same stab wound as Lord Blackwood, he muttered, and no signs of forced entry. Anna crossed her arms. Doesn't exactly narrow it down. The entire household could have walked in without knocking. Dalton wasn't exactly popular. Lady Blackwood hovered near the door, still dramatically fanning herself like she was about to faint. "Inspector, I fear for my life. I could be next." Graves raised an eyebrow. "And why would the killer come after you, Lady Blackwood?" she gasped, offended. "Because I'm rich and tragic, of course." Anna tried not to snort. Later that afternoon, Graves paced the study while Anna sketched 2 murders, he said, rubbing his chin. In the same house. Both victims tied to Lord Blackwood. And no one saw anything? Anna paused mid-sketch and held up a drawing. It showed the servants' quarters with a shadowy figure lingering outside Dalton's window the night before. Greaves narrowed his eyes. "Is this artistic liberty, or did you actually see someone?" Anna shrugged. "I didn't think it was important at the time." Greaves stared at the drawing. "That's the shape of a person, Miss Fletcher, not a tree." Anna erased part of the figure and hastily added branches. "See? Now it's a tree." Greaves didn't look impressed. By dinner time, panic had spread through the entire house. The maid wouldn't leave the kitchen. Lady Blackwood locked herself in her room with her jewellery, and even Greaves triple-checked the lock on his guest-room door. Anna, meanwhile, sat quietly at the dining table, sketching while everyone spiralled into paranoia. Greaves glanced at her from across the room. "You don't seem too worried," Anna shrugged. "I figure, if they wanted me dead, they'd have done it by now." Comforting. As the night stretched on, Anna's sketches grew more detailed. She wasn't trying to, but her pencil seemed to move on its own, outlining faint shapes and hidden objects she hadn't noticed before. That's when she drew it. A small lockbox, tucked beneath Dalton's bed, half hidden in the corner of his quarters. Anna stared at the sketch for a long moment before sliding it across the table to Greaves. He frowned. "What's this?" Anna tapped the drawing. Greaves's eyes narrowed. "And you're sure it's there?" "Anna's sure it's there." Anna nodded. "I mean, I haven't been wrong yet." He sighed and stood, already grabbing his coat. "Let's hope whatever's inside explains why someone's going around stabbing the staff." Anna grabbed her sketchbook and followed him to the door. "Also," Greaves added, "if Lady Blackwood wants one more time, I'm letting her stay there." Chapter 5. Secrets, Lockboxes, and Really Shady Rings. Greaves wasn't thrilled about crawling under a dead man's bed. "I'm too old for this," he grumbled, his coat snagging on the frame as he knelt down. Anna, sitting cross-legged nearby, sketched the scene with great enthusiasm. "If you draw me stuck, I'm arresting you," Greaves said flatly, his voice muffled from under the bed. Anna grinned. No promises. It took him longer than it should have, but eventually Greaves slid out with the lockbox, covered in dust and looking like it hadn't been touched in years. He coughed. "I've found it, but if I sneeze and accidentally launch this thing across the room, it's your fault." Anna held up her sketch of Greaves under the bed. She had already added a caption, "Heroic Rescue of Mysterious Box." Greaves shook his head, and I quoted, "Unbelievable." The lockbox wasn't locked, which was suspicious in itself. Greaves popped it open, expecting family heirlooms or something sentimental. Instead, he found documents. Anna tilted her head. "Exciting!" Greaves squinted. "I was hoping for gold bars or maybe a cursed artifact, but no, it's just boring paper." Anna tapped the top sheet, gesturing for him to read it. His eyes scanned the page, and suddenly his boredom vanished. "Well," he muttered, "this just got interesting. Blackmail. Lots of it. Lord Blackwood, it seemed, had a side hobby, extorting money from half the people in London. There were letters, receipts, even a detailed list titled People I Have Dirt On, because apparently Blackwood lacked subtlety. At the top of that list, Sir Howard. Greaves raised a neon sign that says, "I enjoy blackmail." Anna snorted and drew tiny gold coins around Lord Blackwood's name in her sketchbook. As they sorted through the papers, Anna's pencil kept moving. She wasn't entirely paying attention until she realized what she was drawing. A ring. A heavy, ornate one, with a strange emblem in the center. Greaves glanced over. "What's that?" Anna pointed at the sketch, then gestured toward the list of names. Greaves frowned, flipping through the documents until he found the same emblem stamped towards the list of names. "Looks familiar," he said, tapping his chin. "Wait. Sir Howard was wearing this ring at dinner the other night." Anna gave him a thumbs up. "Exactly." They didn't waste time. Greaves marched straight to Sir Howard's room, knocking hard enough to make the chandelier shake. Silence. "Sir Howard," Greaves called. "I just want to talk about how shady you are." "Nothing." Greaves glanced at Anna. "I don't like this." Anna already had her sketchbook open, drawing the outline of an empty room. Greaves sighed. "Yeah, I think you're right." He tried the handle. Unlocked. The door creaked open. Sir Howard's room was neat. Too neat. Eh? No luggage, no clothes, no Sir Howard. Anna raised her eyebrow. "So? Suspicious?" Greaves huffed. "Very suspicious. Sir Howard hadn't just left the room, he'd vanished." Greaves rubbed his emotions through the drawers on her desk. Greaves rubbed his temples. "Why do I feel like this is going to get worse?" Anna grinned and flipped to a new page. "Because it is." Chapter 6. Sketchy Business. In response, she'd drawn a stick figure labelled Greaves, running away from a cartoon butler holding a very large candlestick. The warehouse smelled like mould, rust, then regret. Greaves held his lantern high, squinting at the rows of crates and broken furniture. "Sir Howard," he called. Nothing but echoes answered him. "I'm failing him for emotional damage," Greaves grumbled. Back at the manor, Anna wasn't exactly having a relaxing evening. She was in the kitchen, munching on bread that was probably meant for the guests, when she felt it. That weird feeling, like someone was standing right behind her. Anna froze, chewing slowly as her eyes darted around the room. The only company was the cat sitting on the windowsill, and unless it had suddenly grown thumbs, it wasn't the stalker type. Still, Anna wasn't about to wait and find out. She grabbed her sketchbook and began drawing. Meanwhile, Greaves was having his own problems. He found Sir Howard, just not alive. The poor man was slumped against a crate, eyes wide in surprise and very, very stabbed. Greaves let out a long breath. Wonderful. I was hoping he'd at least last until tea. As he crouched beside the body, his lantern flickered, casting long shadows against the warehouse walls, and one of those shadows wasn't his. Greaves straightened. "Hello?" No answer. Greaves glanced around the empty warehouse. "Well, that's definitely not concerning. After all, we have no evidence to suggest the object has left the building." Back at the manor, Anna's sketch was coming together, and it wasn't pretty. Her pencil flew across the page, drawing the manor hallway, empty except for a shadow standing right behind her. She paused, staring at the page. Slowly she turned her head. No one was there. But the drawing said otherwise. Anna gulped. Greaves returned to the manor, looking grumpier than usual. "Sir Howard's dead," he announced to the nearest person, which happened to be the cat. The cat blinked at him and knocked a spoon off the table. Anna appeared in the doorway, holding up her latest sketch. Graves squinted at it. "That's the hallway outside Lady Blackwood's room." Anna nodded. There was more. At the bottom of the sketch, a second figure stood behind Lady Blackwood. Tall, dark, and most definitely holding a knife. Graves froze. "Miss Fletcher," he said carefully, "where's Lady Blackwood right now?" Anna flipped the page. The next drawing was of Lady Blackwood, sleeping peacefully in her bed. Greaves stared at the sketch, then at Anna. Anna raised an eyebrow. "So, you want to wake her up, or should I?" Chapter 7. Silent Showdown. Greaves had sprinted through a lot of places in his career. Dark alleys, crowded train stations, once through a bakery during a flower explosion. But sprinting through Blackwood Manor at 2 a.m, chasing after Lady Blackwood with Anna silently power-walking behind him, this was new. "She locked herself in the study," Greaves huffed, fumbling with his keys. "They do these rich people have more locks than common sense?" Anna stood behind him, flipping open her sketchbook. She quickly drew Lady Blackwood, dramatically barricading the door with a chair. Greaves glanced at it. "Great, I'm being outsmarted by furniture." Inside the study, Lady Blackwood paced nervously, twirling a small knife between her fingers like it was a stress toy. Anna stood by the desk, calm but very aware that being alone with a panic-laden knife wasn't ideal. Lady Blackwood glanced at her. "You don't talk much, do you?" Anna raised an eyebrow. "Huh? I literally can't." Lady Blackwood exhaled sharply and rubbed her temples. "Of course. Perfect. I lock myself in a room with someone who can't scream. Just my luck." Anna's sketchbook was already open. Her pencil scratched across the page. Lady Blackwood squinted. "What are you doing?" Anna flipped the sketch around. She'd drawn Lord Blackwood's study. The night of the murder. Lady Blackwood's eyes narrowed. "That's enough of that," she said, taking a step forward. Anna held up her hand like, "Hold that thought, I'm not finished." She quickly sketched a second figure, the butler, Dalton, standing behind Lord Blackwood for good luck. The night was dead, but Anna wasn't done. She drew Lady Blackwood standing behind Dalton, knife in hand. Lady Blackwood's face paled. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "I wasn't even there." Anna calmly flipped to the next page. The next drawing showed the exact moment Lady Blackwood stabbed Dalton in the servants' quarters. Lady Blackwood's eye twitched. "I see you've been busy with your little art projects," she muttered, gripping the knife tighter. "I suppose you plan on showing these to Greaves, don't you?" Anna gave her a look that said, "Oh, absolutely." Greaves rattled the door handle outside. "I know you're in there," he called. "You might as well come out and explain yourself." Silence. Greaves sighed. "Anna, if you can hear me, blink twice." He paused. "Wait, knock, twice. You get what I mean?" Nothing. Greaves frowned. "I swear, if Lady Blackwood starts monologuing—" Inside the study, Lady Blackwood paced faster. "You think anyone's going to believe drawings?" she snapped. "You're a servant, Fletcher. I'm Lady Blackwood." Anna slowly drew a sketch of Greaves bursting through the door like an angry bear. Lady Blackwood glared at her. "You think you'll save you?" Anna smirked and knocked twice on the desk. Lady Blackwood tilted her head. "What are you?" Crash! The door splintered inward in one hand, and what looked suspiciously like a bread roll in the other. "Who's hungry?" Greaves shouted defensively, waving the roll. "Don't judge me!" Lady Blackwood spun, knife raised. Anna calmly held up her sketchbook, now showing a picture of Lady Blackwood getting tackled by Greaves. Lady Blackwood's eyes flicked between the drawing and Greaves. There! Greaves lunged. By the time Lady Blackwood was properly handcuffed, and Greaves had collected what little was left of his dignity, Anna sat on the desk, sketching the aftermath. Greaves leaned over her shoulder. "Draw me taller," he muttered. Anna erased 1/2 inch from his legs. "I saw that." Chapter 8. Sketches, Arrests, and Happily Ever After. Lady Blackwood was hauled out of the manor, kicking, screaming, and dramatically swearing she was too glamorous for prison. Anna watched from the top of the stairs, calmly sketching Lady Blackwood's exit like she was drawing inspiration for a comic strip. She made sure to add sparkles around Lady Blackwood's head for extra flair. Greaves stood next to her, chewing the end of a pen like it was gum. "I don't get it. Why kill Blackwood over blackmail? The man was practically blackmailing himself with those letters." Anna flipped her sketchbook open to a new page and drew a little stick figure labelled "Sir Howard's useless son with a thought bubble. I owe too much money." Greaves blinked. "Wait, it was about her son." Anna nodded, tapping the sketch. "Turns out Lord Blackwood had been blackmailing Lady Blackwood's only child. Something about debts, unpaid gambling, and a horse named Lightning Larry, rather than let her son's reputation and wallet crumble. Lady Blackwood had taken matters into her own very stabby hands." Greaves groaned. "Wealthy people are exhausting." Anna raised an eyebrow. "And entertaining," Greaves smirked. "I'll give you that." "The trial of the year." Anna wasn't expecting her drawings to become courtroom evidence, but when Greaves slapped them onto the judge's desk like they were rare artifacts, the whole room leaned in. "This," Greaves said, holding up Anna's sketch of Lady Blackwood mid-stab, "is our key witness." Anna waved from the gallery seat, sketchbook in hand. Lady Blackwood, shackled but still very extra, gasped. "This is ridiculous. That's not even my good side." The judge glanced at the drawing, raised an eyebrow, and nodded toward Anna. "Miss Fletcher, excellent work. Consider this Exhibit A and B and C through Z." By the time the trial wrapped up, Lady Blackwood was sentenced to 10 to 15 years of dramatically fainting in prison. Sir Howard's son was bailed out, by literally everyone else, and Lord Blackwood's estate mysteriously inherited the cat. Anna figured that was the real win. On one particularly sunny morning, Anna found herself standing in Greaves' office, nervously flipping through her sketchbook. "So," Greaves said, leaning back in his chair, "how do you feel about becoming the official artist for the police department?" Anna raised an eyebrow. "You want me to draw criminals?" Greaves grinned. "Sketch them, yes. Bonus points if you add moustaches to the ones who annoy me." Anna grinned and flipped to a sketch of Greaves with a giant handlebar moustache drawn over his face. Greaves groaned. "Why is it always the moustache?" Anna shrugged. "It's tradition now." And so Anna accepted the job. She traded polishing silverware for sketching crews, became Greaves' unofficial and slightly sarcastic partner, and somehow managed to not get stabbed along the way. The manor eventually went quiet, except for the cat, who now slept in Lord Blackwood's old chair like he owned the place. And as for Greaves, well, Anna thought, flipping open her sketchbook and doodling him stuck under another desk, some things never change.